Today is Jack's day to be assessed to become an assistance dog. So, as part of being an assistance dog, I'll be allowed to take Jack into shopping centres, trains, buses, planes, hospitals, pretty much anywhere that people can go. Today he's getting assessed. So the reason I didn't do it sooner, You want to scratch, do you? Huh? You want to scratch. I was always under the impression that your dogs had to be able to be patted by anybody without warning and not be snappy. So I was under the assumption that that's what you needed to be an assistance dog, so I never followed it through. And then someone I met at the dog park was going to get their dog to become an assistance dog, so I inquired about it. That is not a priority for an assistance dog, so people are not supposed to pat them because they're considered working dogs, so it's neither here nor there if a dog gets snappy when someone tries to pat the dog without asking or from behind or whatever. So I've got his assessment this afternoon, so I'll see if I can try and film part of it anyway to see what the process is, because I'm curious myself. Jack is really good at going up and down stairs and going in elevators with a little bit of coaxing, but going up and down escalators, that's a big no-no at the moment. So that's one thing I'll have to work on, is getting him to walk up and down escalators.
But from memory, you're wanting Flash to be your certified assistance dog.
Yeah.
But you've already been taking him lots of places, is that correct?
Yep. Places that will allow dogs.
Yeah.
I frequently go to Harvey Norman or Rebel or all those outlying stores that aren't in shopping malls. Yeah. So I take him all the time. He doesn't give me any trouble. Doesn't bother anyone. Doesn't pee on the stuff.
Yeah. And how is he with other dogs? Like if you were to walk past another dog, what would he think about that?
Pretty indifferent. Quite a few times we go to Bunnings and he's had quite a few dogs bark at him though, aggressive dogs, pulling the guy in the lead, and he just sort of looks at him like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah. Perfect.
No, he's a very chill dog.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, really
and how
chill.
old is he again? 2?
2 years and 4 months now.
Okay, so just almost out of your crazy zone. And is he purebred?
Yes.
Yeah.
He stopped doing his puppy play things when he turned about 2.
Yep.
He does do it, but not often now.
Yeah,
like once
he's
every
getting
couple
to
of
be
weeks.
sensible self-age.
Even lately, he doesn't play much with his ropes. Like he used to want to tug every day, and now it's
He might be just getting a bit too hot at the moment. Even my dog's not interested in playing at the moment. It's just too hot.
Yeah. Well, last year I found he struggled when it was like over 35. So this year I've got an air conditioner now. So most of the day he's in the air conditioning. So I'm just down here out of the air conditioning.
Yeah.
And I've switched his exercise to less running and more swimming. So today I'll go for a bit of a walk.
Yep.
I'm taking the dog parking and chase the dogs for like 20 minutes or so, and then I'll take him for a swim.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So he loves swimming.
Yeah. So an assistance dog should have 3 tasks that they do that help you with your disability that a pet dog is not doing. So there's the emotional support, but a pet dog can do emotional support as well.
Yeah.
So they don't consider that to be a good enough assistance. I think it should be, and so do a lot of other people who do assistance dogs. We think emotional support is probably the biggest one, but a pet dog can do that. So the government or whoever the powers to be have decided that emotional support is not a good enough task. But a good enough task might be, he gives you purpose. That is a perfectly acceptable task. Gives you purpose, gets you out of the house, makes you get outside your brain, get outside your thought patterns. Some other ways that dogs can help, and I'll give you an example of how my assistance dog helps me, and you can sort of see then how he might help you with that. And my dog will come up, she's a Rottweiler, she'll come up and put her head on my lap if I'm seated, and like really heavy, and then just stare at me, make eye contact, which forces me to re-engage with her, and I'll pat her, and that can. If I'm laying down, she might lay across me. So we call that deep pressure therapy. So she's putting pressure on me that grounds me and says, hey, come back, be present here with me, right? Other ways that she helps is, I don't like crowds of people. I don't actually like people because of all the trauma. So if I'm feeling worried or bothered while we were out, she would body block me. Now, she doesn't do it aggressively. She just simply, so she might be walking here, and my heart rate might start to increase, and I might start to feel unsure. So she will sort of stand or walk across here so that nobody can come into my space. If needed, she would do that behind. So they're the kinds of things that she's doing. She knocks my mobile phone flying out of my hand if I'm on my phone and it's stressing me out. She will knock my phone flying as she say, you need to stop that, that's bothering you, you need to get back. So she does do things like that. It's not ideal, the mobile phone one, and I prefer that she didn't do that. But it's her way of going, that is the thing that's causing you a problem and you need to get off it for whatever reason. She has decided that is the problem in that moment. She's usually right. I'm usually on the phone having a phone conversation. So they're the kinds of things that my dog is doing to help me with my disability. So can you think of ways that he is doing similar things or other things that might be helping you?
He'll come up to me and he'll put his nose under my arm and try and flick my arm off to get me off the computer. So he does that quite often.
Yeah.
He does it very predictably at night time when he wants to go to bed or he wants us to go to bed. So me and my wife, he usually does it around 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Like he starts doing this thing.
So he's trying to regulate your sleeping pattern because...
So he'll run up and then he goes to bed and he runs back. He's sort of pointing, back and forwards.
Yep.
And he does this for a while, and then
perfect.
If I don't go after a while, he gives up and then just he's a big sigher. He really sighs. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's funny how they have that little bit of a you're not listening to me. If you were to, if you were kind of person who would start to do this when you're anxious, would he come and stop you from doing that, do you think, if you started to shake your leg?
Well, I actually don't do that.
You
so
don't
I
do
know.
that. Well, that's lucky. I do it all the time and I find myself doing it.
But he's constantly coming at me. To be honest, I haven't really thought about that side of things at all.
And you don't until someone asks you the question, right? And that's why we like to ask it on the first visit. So by the time you get around to doing your public access test, because we have to write it on there, you've given it some thought, and because sometimes we don't realise what our dog is doing. We call it intelligent disobedience, and an example of that is a guide dog has been trained to walk across a zebra crossing, right? Yeah. But if when they're trying to walk across that zebra crossing, there's a barrier or a car or a massive hole, it will think, well, that's not safe for my human, I'm going to take them around. So it's actively went, I'm not going to follow your instruction. Even though I've been trained to follow your instruction, that's not safe for you, so I'm going to do this. And so we often don't recognise our dogs are trying to tell us something. We think A, they're being naughty because we've told them to do something and they're not. Or B, we're just not picking it up. We're not looking for it, so therefore we don't see it. Okay, so he may be doing other things that you just haven't recognised at this moment. But now that I've put this idea into your head, you're going to be going, oh, I was feeling stressed, or my disability was making me do blah, 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 and this is what he did in order to help prevent or stop. And so that's why we always ask it at our first meeting, because by the time we get to our public access test, we have to write 3 things on there. So we've already got 1, and that's what gives you purpose and reason for leaving the house, right? So we've already got 1. That's a solid one. It's fantastic. So we just need 2 more. We don't generally train these behaviours because as an assistance dog, they're so in tune with you that they're doing them without us actually knowing, which makes them a great assistance dog, right? But if we notice that they're doing something consistently and it is helping with our disability, we can then start to reinforce that behaviour by acknowledging it and going, I see what you're doing there, I like what you've done, let's keep doing it. And, you know, the more that we tell them that we like what they're doing, the more they're going to do it, as you know. So just have that thought process now, just sort of moving forward and start to think about what that might look like for you and Flash. And your wife might notice things that you don't as well. So it's always a good idea to have other people looking out for these behaviours as well. When I'm in the middle of a meltdown, I'm not particularly aware of what my dog's doing until she does it. So it took other people to tell me that's what she was doing for me to notice that's what she was doing. Does that make sense? Yeah. So as an assistance dog, there are some basic tests that we have to do. One of them is to go to a public place and we run through the public access tests. I always like to come here and meet the team first, because if I got here and he was a nervous wreck, barking, screaming, yelling, biting me, then it's an automatically no, we're not going to train your dog to be an assistance dog, right? He was unsure. Perfectly. Exactly. He was unsure, which is perfectly fine. I'm a stranger coming into your home. And you were probably nervous about me coming, so he would have read that as well, right?
So, he probably did, because he kept looking at me. So, you know, but what we don't want to see when we get here is this dog trying to attack me through the front door, because that's we simply cannot risk taking the dog into public places if that's how they feel at home. But I didn't see anything, and I'm not seeing anything that says to me we can't move forward. Now that might change if we get into a shopping centre and he tries to bite a child, then obviously we've got to go, actually this is not the right job for him. But what we would like to do next is go to a public place, say a shopping centre. That's fine. I take him to that auto place quite often, quite a few times.
So I generally like to go down there and just run through the public access test. So the public access test, and you can Google the public access test, it's a free for all, anybody can have a look at it. Only certain people can sign it off, but everybody's free to look at it. But things that we're looking for is that he walks beautifully next to you, not on a tight lead. You're not to be jerking him, he just walks beautifully here. They can walk a little bit in front, so if my feet are here, he can be here, but he can't be here, right? So he can be a little bit in front, but he can't be a lot in front. And he has to have a loose lead, and you're not tugging him to get him to walk in that position. Then we're looking for...
I find he's responsive to the type of lead I have too, because I got like 4 different leads. So I got a small one, so if I put the small one on him, he knows it's small, so he won't pull or won't try and walk out in front. So that'd be easy for me to solve.
He needs to be able to sit and stay while you walk. I want to say 15 metres, but that sounds like a lot. I say about 8 steps away from him. And then he needs to sit and stay and then come in the middle of the shopping centre. So he needs to walk through the meat section without sniffing at the meat. That
I haven't tried because I've never gone in there yet.
Of course. He needs to walk through there. He needs to lay down for 1 whole minute in an aisle. We then go to a coffee shop and he needs to lay down for 5 minutes at a coffee shop. And we drop food on the floor and he's not allowed to touch it. Okay. We have to go into an elevator and he just needs to be cool, calm and collected in there. He needs to go up and down some stairs and walk beautifully beside you. He can't run up or run down. He has to, it's kind of like you step, he step, you step, he step. Rather than,
he's actually good at that. I train him every day with that.
Perfect.
Because I walk up and down the train station. And I've taught him, slow and wait and all that sort of stuff. So he creeps down the stairs.
Perfect. Have you used the lift at the train station?
Yes, he goes in it, but he's quite nervous about those lifts. Like if I take him to a lift because my mother lives in a high-rise apartment on the Gold Coast and he loves that lift.
Yes, because it's closed in, he can't see.
Well, it's quiet. The one at the train station is bloody noisy and cranky.
Noisy.
I think it's the noise that gets him.
The reason that I say to people train the lifts at the train station is because if you ever wanted to go on a plane, it sort of simulates the landing gear coming up and down, all of that clunky noise.
Yeah.
So it just sort of prepares them.
He has been on it, but he's not comfortable.
He doesn't
with
love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else do we do? And then we walk past another dog and just make sure that he stays calm.
Yeah.
We do go into a disabled toilet, but just so that we can activate the hand dryer. And so the reason we want to activate the hand dryer is to stimulate a loud, unexpected noise to see how they A, handle it, but B, recover from it. Because he can go like that, but then he should still be able to get on with his job. And if he does this, but then is just so hypervigilant and not able to refocus, then we have to work on that hi buddy, because we don't want him staying in this startled phrase. We want him to come all the way back down if he can. Okay. So that's your basic public access test. I train some other things. So I train some automatic behaviours because whilst they're not part of your public access test, they do come in handy. So if I'm walking along and I drop the lead, my dog should stop immediately when the lead is dropped. And not all dogs will do that. They'll go, oh, I'm free, off they toddle, right? But if you drop the lead because you've fallen over or you've had a fright or your disability causes you to not be able to hold on to it for whatever reason, then your dog needs to remain safe by your side. Okay. When I stop, I expect my dog to stop. When I sit, I expect my dog to sit. So things like that are just automatic that we can help them by teaching them how to do it. So that way, if we're having a conversation with somebody, we're talking, we're walking along and we're talking and we want to stop and have a chat or we want to look at something on the shelf, the dog just knows what to do without us having to go, can you sit? I want to, it just sort of makes our life easier if the dog can predict some of our behaviours and some of the required responses from them. And so that's kind of the next step. I don't meet people in the public place the first time, because if we had met in the public place and he was terrified, or if he was barking at the other dogs or barking at people walking past, then we're not seeing the true reflection of him because he's stressed. So I like to start here.
Yeah, I can assure you he doesn't do any of that stuff.
I didn't think he would. He's pretty chilled, I think.
The worst he does is if he sees a dog, he'll want to go and say hello to him.
Yeah.
That's about the worst he does. Yeah.
So when he's in his working vest, he's not allowed to say hello to other dogs. He can say hello to other humans with your permission. He can't demand attention from anybody, even if it was your best friend walking towards you. If he's in vest, he has to ignore your best friend. Now, how hard is that?
He does that anyway.
Yeah, good. I didn't think my dog would. I have a new partner and we met him out, and my dog loves my new partner probably more than I do. And I thought that she would just be so glad to see him that she figured that she was in vest. So I gave her permission when we first got there to greet him. And she didn't want to. She was like, oh, I'm working, I can't talk to him. And so she ignored him until I took her vest off, and then she was his friend. And I thought that was really interesting, because that's not something I've trained before. So for me, that was an interesting behaviour that she had decided to do all on her own. Well, I'm in vest, I cannot talk to him. So very intelligent, our dogs, more so than we could ever give them credit for, I think.
Oh yeah, he's a smart boy. And the issue I find with him being smart, he's also got his own reasoning ability. So, especially if I go for walks, I can't take him on the same walk every day. I have to keep mixing it up, because if I take him on the same walk, he'll want to go a different way. And then if I don't go the way he wants, he'll just sit down and say, no, I'm not going the way you want. So he can be really stubborn that way. So I found my way around that is to just keep mixing it up.
And that will come in handy when he starts working in a shopping environment, because what we often find, especially with our male dogs, is that they want to be in charge, and therefore their owners aren't. And therefore their owners aren't in charge, and the dogs are making them go where they want to go rather than where the human wants to go.
Oh, so you think that's a male thing?
It is most definitely a male dog.
Is he trying to dominate me?
No, he's not trying to dominate you. He just likes to be in control, which is a male trait, right? Human and dogs are all very much the same. But
So
we
am I
see it
doing the
more.
right thing by mixing
You
it up?
absolutely are.
Oh,
Because he
okay.
has to trust you then. He
I
has
did
to.
try food and that worked for one day.
Yeah.
Next day he's wise.
Yeah, he's
I
like,
said, oh,
yeah.
you're just trying to make me go where you want me to do
Yes,
the food. So,
yes, yeah. So can I ask his training history? So you did puppy preschool with him?
Yeah, I did. Well, I got him when he was 10 months old.
Okay.
So I
puppy
took him to
preschool.
that place and
Yeah.
had some puppy,
Yes.
young dog training.
Yep.
And that's the rest of it I've been
You've
doing
done
myself.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've used positive reinforcement, so you've not.
No, I don't hit him or stuff like
Yeah,
that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so do you have any questions for me?
So the way this works is you're going to give me little tasks to do in between each session or something?
Yeah,
and you sort of progress that way?
Well, what I think I think the most logical next step for us is to meet at a shopping complex and run through the public access test, because we don't know what we don't know right now.
Yeah.
And he may ace it, and therefore you don't need to do any more training. Or he may ace 80% of it, and then we've only got a couple of things to work on. So it makes sense to meet there, see what we've got to work on, and if there's nothing to work on, I still like to do 2 more sessions. So I like to do 3 sessions in a public place before I do the public access test, even if the dog has previously been an assistance dog. And the reason for that is dogs can have good days and bad days. Humans can have good days and bad days. So if you turn up on the first day, you're going to be nervous because you're going to the shopping centre for the first time, and your dog may not be the best version of themselves because they are picking up your anxiety. And so then what I'm seeing isn't actually reflecting what the dog can do. Okay? So regardless of how trained you are or how long you've been an assistance dog or how long you've been trying, I still recommend 3 sessions for every client as a minimum. And in those 3 sessions, so if you get to that first session and you nail everything, then we just do another one at a different location just to make sure that the skills are transferable and that it's not just pure luck that we did it good at the first location. And then if the second one is fantastic, then we'll do a different location for our third one. And then we do our public access test. And even if on the day of your public access test, nothing is exact, or not everything is exactly perfect, I can take those skills that you've shown me in those 3 and apply it to your public access test day. So
what's the difference between that and the first lesson?
So the public access test is your qualification that you can give.
You do that too, do you?
I do that too, yeah. So you can give that to your council, so you get free dog registration, so you don't have to pay registration anymore. You can then go on aeroplanes, you can go on cruise ships, you can pretty much take him. The only places accredited assistance dog can't go is operating theatres and commercial kitchens, but they can go everywhere else.
So I can actually take him into hospitals?
You can take him into hospitals.
Oh, that would work out really good because my mum's getting towards the stage where she's probably going to get really sick soon, so that'd be good.
Yep, so you'll be able to take him into hospital.
Yeah.
So the only place he can't go, operating theatre and commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
While he's in training, hospitals can tell him no, but once he's qualified, hospitals can't tell him no. But it just gives you that ID card that anybody says you can't bring your dog in here, you throw that in their face and tell them some nice words and you go in anyway. But yeah, so that's the difference. And there's no law that says you have to do a public access test. It's not compulsory, but without it, you find it harder. You get turned away from more places, especially if you've got a large breed dog, which you do, right? I have a Rottweiler, so could you imagine how many places I get turned away from? Yeah. Even she's fully qualified.
Oh, he's only 21 kilos, believe it or not.
Yeah, he's all hair.
Yeah.
But
aren't you?
My Rottweiler she's fully qualified, and not by me. I had somebody else do it to make sure there was no conflict of interest.
I guess so.
But she's been turned away from hospitals, she's been turned away from shops, she's been turned away from many places because she's an aggressive dog. And I was like, well, she wouldn't be an assistance dog if she was aggressive.
So how would you handle that? You just show them your qualification? And
I just show them her ID. I'm with an organisation who, if I get turned away, she deals with it. She calls them, and if she can't resolve it, she takes them to human rights. I pay her $1,200 initially to do all the paperwork, and I pay her $300 a year for that. Whereas with me, and you can go through an organisation, but with me, I can do everything, but I'm not going to advocate for you. So if you get turned away from somewhere and you don't want to fight that battle yourself, I can refer you to someone who will pay, who you give a fee to, and she'll fight it for you, but I'm not going to call them. I'm a conflict avoider. So
Well, that's fine.
I say to people, if you get turned away from somewhere, just leave.
I mean, apart from like a hospital, nothing else is going to be really a big deal to me.
Yeah, and if you've got that ID, I was an inpatient when my dog got turned away, but as a visitor, she's not been turned away.
Yeah.
So
see, I have quite the opposite issue with him because he's like a celebrity. Cause I don't think there's any other this breed in this whole area that I've seen. I've seen a half one.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to come and pet him, so there's always people in his face.
Yeah.
He'll tolerate it, but he doesn't like it.
Yeah. And when he's in jacket, you can just say to them, he's working. Just let the occasional person, but not every man, come and talk to him, because if he's working, he needs to concentrate on you. That's his sole purpose. But yeah, so I think that would be our most logical next step, is to meet at a shopping centre, run through the public access test. See what you've got to work on. If there are things that you need to work on, that's the homework that I will give you. I will say, so you didn't walk through the meat section very well, so I need you to start walking through the meat section.
So can I do that stuff without having the ID?
Once you're in training, so
okay.
You can pop him into an eBay vest. So the vests that I have are for fully qualified only, but you can just jump on eBay and buy him an assistance dog harness, vest, lead, whatever you want.
What is it?
And then you got your letter from your doctor saying you have a disability,
and
you can just show them that.